Hi, I'm Christian Brindle, and welcome to the Everything Medicare Podcast.
What's up, Everything Medicare Podcast Nation? This is Christian Brindle, wherever you are and however you might be listening to me today. Thank you so much for taking the time. Every single week, I bring you 3 podcast episodes where we discuss your Medicare, your Medicaid, your Social Security, and everything that has to do with that golden age called retirement. Folks, we are on episode 198. And I'm just floored at how close we are to 200 episodes. You're going to be listening to this on a Monday. And obviously we do our episodes Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. On Saturday's episode, which will be episode 200, which is a huge milestone for us and everything that we have tried to bring to the table in as far as the world of Medicare is concerned, I think it's appropriate. I think it's fitting. We're going to be bringing you a second interview with Galen Hendricks. Galen Hendricks is by far, in my personal opinion, one of the most influential people I've had the privilege of getting to know in the insurance industry. She has her hands dipped in everything, folks. So we're just really, really excited to be able to bring that interview to you. And we hope you enjoy that. Without further ado, though, let's get into today's episode and today's topic. And I wanted to start off the show today by talking about information. And when I say information, it means in a world today where most people under the age of 40 have come out and stated that they get their information on a regular basis from social media platforms. So much so that Facebook came under incredible amounts of scrutiny in the last couple of years about things being shared on their platform that might not necessarily be accurate, things that had no facts or information behind them, to the fact that they basically had to change a lot of things about how they run their platform. You know, you might have noticed if you're on Facebook, which, you know, most people are, there's more Facebook accounts on planet Earth than there are people. But that being said, you probably have noticed in the last year or so that when your friends on Facebook share a story about something, and it might just be some kind of wild claim, a clickbaity kind of title, you'll notice that there's a little thing underneath it that states, this has been fact-checked and this is either true or not true. Information is a huge, huge topic in today's day and age. There's a lot of people that get their information exclusively from podcasts. Or a large portion of their information from podcasts. There's less and less people trusting the news media outlets, no matter what side of the political pendulum you might swing to. And it's become such a relevant way for people to get information, the podcasting sector. I mean, look at what we're doing here today, that you see a podcast like the Joe Rogan Experience. Some of you might have listened. Some of you might listen to that. Some of you might not. Some of you might not be interested. Whether you like Joe Rogan or not, Joe Rogan's a celebrity, a stand-up comedian, did Fear Factor back in the day, works a lot with the UFC, has probably the most popular podcast in the world today in terms of downloads. Depending on the source, Joe Rogan's podcast gets downloaded anywhere between 180 to 250 million times a month. And we saw a company like Spotify come in and pay Joe Rogan, depending on the source, anywhere between $100 to a $200 million deal just to bring his content and his show exclusively over to Spotify. And we have not seen anything like that in the podcasting world as of yet, which basically goes to show that a lot of people like to get their information, entertainment, whatever it might be, from the Joe Rogan show. I tell you this for one reason and one reason alone. In a world where information is everywhere, we have no shortage of information in 2020 and going forward because of this little thing called the internet and because of platforms on the internet called social media platforms. Because of this, anytime you have more information available, you're also going to have more bad information that's available. It's going to be easier to stumble on bad information, and that's what today's show is going to be about. How can you know where to get good information in terms of your Medicare health plan, and when can you not? I do believe that not all information is created equal. You would not believe how much information there is in terms of Medicare. Did they cover this? How often did they cover this? What's the parameters to this? What's the billing in terms of this? Medicare Advantage plans have their own spectrum with that. Medicare supplements, Medicare Part D drug plans, ancillary products like dental, vision, hearing, hospital indemnity products, cancer insurance. There's a lot of information that's out there floating around, and some of it's very good information, but some of it might not be so good. And today we're going to talk about exactly how can you determine the difference. Because in my personal opinion, I believe that making the correct decision on your Medicare health plan can make the difference in terms of potentially thousands of dollars. For some of you, it could be tens of thousands of dollars between getting something covered that you need covered and understanding that it's going to be covered, or potentially paying too much for something that you don't need to be. And knowing what decisions to make that are going to better effectively manage these issues for you has everything to do with the information you're getting and where you're getting it from. Folks, I have to take a quick break here from this week's sponsor. In segment 2, I'll be back. I'll tell you exactly how you need to be looking at information and determining whether it's worthy or not worthy of consideration for your Medicare plan in 2020. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody! Thanks for sticking with me through that break. This is segment 2 of 3 of this episode of the Everything Medicare Podcast. Thank you for being here with me today. Folks, let's talk about information. Where is a good place to get Medicare information? Well, obviously, the obvious answer to that is right from the horse's mouth, from Medicare itself. Probably Medicare.gov. But who wants to just go through and read Medicare.gov? If you've ever been on Medicare.gov and read through some documentation, if you're just a regular person, going through information on Medicare.gov is, in most cases, as exciting as watching wallpaper dry, or as exciting as staring at your hand all day. It's just not a very digestible way for people on Medicare to get their information, and the reason for this primarily is Medicare, obviously being the government, words everything in government terminology. Everything is proper, precise, but worded in such a way that it's a little bit difficult to understand the transparency for the average person. That's why this podcast has any source of relevancy, folks, in my personal opinion. I believe that it's not just getting the good information. It's not just getting the correct information. It's having it explained to you in a way that you can effectively digest and understand. So, good information, yes. You don't want information that's wrong, but it has to be information that's digestible. In my personal opinion, folks, I think there's a lot of really, really great YouTube videos, YouTube channels. I think our channel does a very good job. We have almost 300 videos on our Christian Brindle channel, all about Medicare just for you. This podcast, close to 200 episodes. I like to think of our show as a library, almost, to where you can have almost any question about Medicare. You can search through our library, and you're going to be able to find an episode completely dedicated to that question. But not to say that we're the only great source of Medicare information. But what I would always say, as a rule of thumb, you need to be able to fact check this information by comparing it to the Medicare website and maybe in the Medicare app if you have that on your smartphone, which most of you, I assume, do that are listening to this show. You want to make sure that the information lines up. We all have a Medicare and U-Book. Make sure that the information is factual and accurate. We've had a lot of agents, kind of come after me in the last year or so in terms of challenging my position about being able to work with people that have TRICARE for life, that were military retirees, and even as recently as people having veterans benefits, which is ludicrous. And what we've been able to kind of always come back with is we've been able to show documentation to kind of support our argument. Documentation from the TRICARE for Life handbook. Documentation in the Medicare and U handbook. Make sure the information is correct, and you're going to be in good shape. But also, it has to be explained to you in a way that you know what you're getting. Because if you don't particularly understand what you're getting, how can you possibly make the most out of it? How can you squeeze water out of a rock if you do not particularly know how to do so? They say when life hands you lemons, make lemonade. I agree with that, but you have to know the recipe. Make sure that you understand what you're getting. Make sure it's digestible, consumable, relatable. I think that's going to help you out in the long run, folks. I don't think it's a bad idea to read articles, read blogs. A lot of times, if you see an article that comes from a big name insurance company or a hospital chain, probably have a pretty good indication that that information is going to be correct. Make sure that's a good source. And if you do that, when you're doing your own research about your Medicare health plan, because no matter how much you hear me talk, or whether how much you hear an agent talk, or how many agents you talk to, or salespeople that you talk to, you're probably always going to want to do your own research to kind of make sure that it lines up. We know that this happens frequently. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with understanding what you have. Make sure it's accurate information. Make sure that it's relatable and digestible information. And I think you're going to be in a really, really good position. Folks, I have one more break to take, one more sponsor to hear from. I do have some more thoughts on this topic I would like to share with you before we close out this episode. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back, and we'll finalize episode 198. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks so much for sticking with me all the way to the end. And folks, I wanted to take a quick moment on this day, Monday, of Memorial Day, to honor any person that might be listening to this that's had a family member, a friend, a close loved one, whatever the situation might be, that has fought for our country, served for our country, and sacrificed for our country, the ultimate price. The reason why I'm able to sit here today behind a microphone and talk to you about a topic that I am passionate about, and that is Medicare health plans, is because people have sacrificed for your freedom, my freedom, and all of our freedom. In my opinion, I do believe the people that have sacrificed for our country are the real heroes and the real people that need to be admired and looked up to. If you've had a loved one, maybe you had a loved one that went off to war and didn't return. Maybe you've had a loved one that was lost serving and helping in disaster situations such as 9/11. So many years ago. whatever the case might be, we honor your loved ones. We honor you and your family. And this day is for you. So thank you so much for everything that you've sacrificed for all of us. We can't thank you enough, and we appreciate everything with 100% transparency. Folks, as always, I really, really appreciate you taking some time listening to the show today. I just can't believe that we've kept on trudging along all the way up to 200 episodes. When I first started this show, I never once pictured us getting to 200 episodes. I wasn't even sure if people would listen to the first couple episodes we put out because it's a podcast about Medicare. Who is going to listen to a podcast about Medicare? Well, turns out there's a huge amount of you that would like to listen to a podcast about Medicare, not once, not twice, but 3 times a week in and week out. And we're so grateful that you've been along this journey with me. When I started this podcast, I was 25 years old. I'll be 28 years old this summer. You've seen me grow. You've seen me change. You've seen all kinds of emotions from me on different topics over the years. And I'm just so honored and flattered that you're taking this journey with me as we go forward. So thank you. As always, folks, if you live in one of the 10 states that we're licensed to do business in, that would be Utah, Idaho, Colorado, Washington, Oregon, California, Texas, Florida, South Carolina, and Virginia. Again, that's Utah, Idaho, Colorado, Washington, Oregon, California, Texas, Virginia, South Carolina, and Florida. And maybe you're turning 65, about to get on Medicare. Maybe you have a loved one that's turning 65 and about to get on Medicare. Maybe, just maybe, you've been on Medicare for some time and you're just not sure if what you have is the best possible fit for you particularly. We would love to talk with you. My office number is 801-255-5340, 801-255-5340. Give me a call. I'm always flattered to hear from you. If anyone's in the audience that's done business with me before, thank you for your business. We appreciate you so much, and we're always going to be here to support you. Thanks for the time, folks. Thanks for spending some time with me today on a holiday, and we'll be back with you Wednesday. Take care.